Are you out of your mind? The millionaire hurled his glass, the wine spilling across the white tablecloth. Every head in the restaurant turned toward the plump woman who hadn't even flinched. She calmly dabbed her lips with the napkin and lifted her eyes to him, making his face turn pale. No one understood what she could have said to make the richest man in town lose control. The silence was so heavy that even the violinist froze mid-note. His partners exchanged nervous glances, sensing this scene could ruin the deal they had built for months. But the millionaire no longer cared. He saw only her. She leaned forward, whispered something so faint only he could hear, and he stiffened as though struck. Guests tried to read her lips but failed. Whatever passed between them wasn't just personal, it was something raw, intimate, and unspoken. "You shouldn't be here," he hissed, gripping the edge of the table, knuckles white. "And yet I am," she answered softly, her calm tone slicing deeper than any shout. His chest tightened. Memories flashed, late nights, stolen moments, the feel of her laugh in the dark. He pushed the thought away, but the heat in his throat betrayed him. "Don't start this here. Not in front of them." Her smile was faint, almost cruel. "Then why do your eyes beg me to?" A murmur rippled through the guests. Some recognized her, most didn't, but everyone felt the tension snap like a wire stretched too far. One of his partners leaned in, whispering, "Control yourself, or everything falls apart." But control was already gone. He rose abruptly, chair scraping against the polished floor. "We're leaving," he ordered, voice trembling with fury. Yet it wasn't fury alone, it was something deeper, dangerous in its vulnerability. She stood as well, slowly, letting the room watch. For a second, their bodies were too close, the air charged, her perfume brushing against him like a memory he couldn't bury. He clenched his jaw, but his hand twitched as though it wanted to reach for hers. "Walk away now," she murmured, just loud enough for him to hear. "Or admit the truth in front of all of them." His breath caught. The richest man in the city, master of boardrooms and contracts, stood trapped by a choice he couldn't make. And the room waited, holding its breath, for his next move. He stood frozen, her words echoing in his chest like a hammer. Admit the truth? In front of everyone? Impossible. His entire reputation, years of carefully built walls, would collapse with a single sentence. Then, slowly, he forced himself to breathe. "Fine," he muttered, voice sharp as steel. "We'll talk. But not here." His decision was made, he grabbed her wrist, gently yet firmly, and pulled her toward the exit. Gasps rose from the tables, some whispered, others stared in disbelief. The richest man in town, dragging a woman no one dared to approach, out of the room. She didn't resist. Her silence was louder than any protest. The rhythm of her heels on the marble floor echoed like a countdown. He could feel every eye burning into his back, but he didn't care. He had to end this before she said another word. Outside, the night air hit him like ice. He released her, pacing 2 steps before turning sharply. "What game are you playing?" His tone was low, dangerous, but beneath it trembled something raw. "No game," she answered calmly, adjusting her coat. "You wanted me gone. But here I am. And the question is, what will you do now?" His jaw tightened. She was right. He had chosen to confront her instead of ignoring her, and now there was no turning back. For the first time in years, he felt cornered, not by rivals, not by money, but by a woman who refused to bend. Then, a voice broke the tension. "Sir, your partners are demanding your return." His assistant had followed, face pale, glancing nervously between them. "The investors are restless. They say walking out now will kill the deal." The millionaire's eyes flickered with rage. Another decision, business or her. If he returned, the night could still be salvaged. If he stayed, everything he had built could burn. She stepped closer, her voice a whisper only he could hear. you already know which matters more. Stop pretending. For a heartbeat, he couldn't breathe. His assistant waited, the restaurant doors still open behind them, the murmur of voices spilling out. And in that suspended moment, he realized, whatever choice he made tonight would change his life forever. The assistant's words hung in the night air, the investors were waiting. His empire trembled on the edge of collapse, yet her presence burned hotter than any contract. He had to choose. "I'll handle this," he snapped, shoving the door closed behind him. 5 minutes. The assistant hesitated, then retreated, leaving them in the quiet alley lit by golden lamps. She crossed her arms, her expression calm, but her eyes alive with fire. "You think 5 minutes will change what's between us?" He stepped closer, anger masking his fear. "It's not what's between us I'm worried about, it's what you'll do if I let you stay in that room." Her lips curved faintly. "So you still think you can control me?" The tension snapped again, but before he could answer, a figure appeared at the edge of the alley. A young woman, early 30s, sharp suit, phone in hand. One of the investors. She'd followed them. "Is this your distraction?" she asked coldly, her eyes scanning the scene. "We put millions on the table, and you vanish with her?" The plump woman didn't flinch. Instead, she met the investor's gaze with quiet defiance. The millionaire's stomach dropped. Two worlds colliding, right here, with no way to separate them. "You don't understand," he tried, but the investor cut him off. "Then make me understand. Because if you walk away now, our deal dies." The plump woman touched his sleeve lightly, almost imperceptibly, but enough to send heat racing up his arm. "Tell her," she whispered. He froze. His empire or his truth? One promise or another? And now both women stood before him, demanding an answer. He opened his mouth, yet the words caught, his pulse hammering in his throat. The investor's eyes narrowed. The plump woman's gaze never wavered. And in that suspended moment, he realized, no matter what he said next, one life would end and another would begin. The silence between the three of them stretched dangerously thin. The investor's sharp gaze demanded clarity, while the woman beside him waited, her calm presence pressing harder than any threat. He stood caught between two worlds, each demanding a truth he wasn't ready to give. Finally, he straightened, shoulders taut. "The deal will stand," he declared, turning to the investor. "But you'll wait until I'm ready." His voice carried authority, enough to still her protest for a heartbeat. A small victory, he'd bought time. But the woman at his side leaned closer, her whisper like fire against his ear. "You think you can keep me hidden again? How many times will you bury what you feel?" Her words stung because they were true. He swallowed hard, rage and longing clashing in his chest. The investor narrowed her eyes, suspicion tightening every line of her face. "Who is she to you?" The question landed like a blow. For a moment he nearly answered, nearly tore the silence apart with a confession. But his throat locked, and instead he forced out, "That's none of your concern." The investor's lips pressed into a thin line. "Then don't expect mine." She turned sharply, phone already at her ear, her figure vanishing back through the restaurant doors. A sting of defeat twisted in his gut, one deal slipping away. Yet even as he felt the ground shake beneath his empire, the woman's gaze anchored him. She wasn't gloating. She wasn't mocking. She was waiting. And that terrified him more than the loss of millions. "I won't let you destroy me," he growled. Her reply was quiet, but her eyes burned. "I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to see if you're brave enough to live." Before he could respond, the restaurant doors burst open. His assistant rushed out, breathless. "Sir," someone inside, they recognized her. The millionaire froze, blood pounding in his ears. Recognized her? The words echoed like thunder. He turned to the woman, but she only smiled faintly, as though she had expected this all along. And in that instant, he realized, whatever secret she carried, it was no longer just between them. The word struck like a blade. Recognized her. His assistant's face was pale, his voice strained, but the meaning was clear: her presence was no longer a private scandal. The room behind those doors buzzed with whispers, and each second they stayed outside only fed the fire. He turned sharply to her. "What did you do?" The question cracked with anger, but beneath it trembled fear. She didn't look away. "I didn't do anything. I just stopped hiding." Her calmness infuriated him. He'd fought wars in boardrooms, crushed rivals, rebuilt fortunes, but nothing had prepared him for a woman who could unravel him with silence. And now, the storm was no longer theirs alone, it was spreading, devouring the empire he had built. The assistant shifted, anxious. "Sir, the investors are demanding clarity. If you don't address them, they'll walk." For a moment, he hesitated. That deal represented years of strategy, an entire future mapped out in figures and contracts. Losing it would be more than a financial blow, it would be public humiliation. Yet as he looked at her, standing steady in the chaos, a deeper truth gnawed at him: if he abandoned her now, he might never forgive himself. He made his choice. "Tell them to wait," he ordered. His assistant's eyes widened. "But, wait!" His voice thundered, final. The assistant retreated, stunned. The millionaire exhaled, but the relief was fleeting. From inside came a new ripple of voices, sharper now, the name of the woman murmured like a secret exposed. He caught fragments: curiosity, mockery, disbelief. She laid a hand on his arm. "This isn't about them. It's about whether you'll finally stand for something that's yours." His chest tightened. She was right. But every step toward her was a step away from the life he had built. The door creaked open again. This time, not the assistant. One of the investors themselves stepped out, a man of influence, his expression grim. "So it's true," he said. "She's back." The millionaire froze. Her eyes flickered, betraying the first hint of unease. "Back?" The word echoed like thunder, carrying with it a past he hadn't yet revealed. And in that instant, he realized, the storm wasn't just beginning, it had already been waiting. The investor's words echoed, "She's back." The phrase landed like a strike, heavier than the whispers behind the doors. He turned sharply to her, searching her face, but she gave nothing away except that faint, unsettling calm. "What does he mean?" he demanded. His voice was raw, too loud, yet powerless against her silence. She looked at the investor first, then at him. "If he remembers, then so do you," she said softly. The investor's gaze hardened. "We warned you years ago. You swore she would never return. And now, here she is." The millionaire's chest constricted. He wanted to shout, to deny, to bury the past beneath money and power, but his body betrayed him. His shoulders sagged, his breath came heavy. Control was slipping, and everyone could see it. The woman touched his sleeve again, grounding him. "You're tired of pretending. Why not let it end?" "End?" His voice cracked. "Do you understand what's at stake?" "I do," she replied. "That's why I came back." The investor stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If you choose her now, you choose against us. The market won't forgive, the board won't forgive. You'll lose everything." For the first time, the millionaire felt the weight of years pressing down. He had conquered fortunes, but his strength faltered. His hands trembled as he tried to hold on to both worlds. And then, through the restaurant doors, another voice pierced the air. A woman's, different, steady, unfamiliar to some, unforgettable to him. "Then let them hear the truth." The millionaire froze, his eyes widening as another figure stepped into the light. The plump woman's expression finally shifted, calm cracking into something fierce. And he realized, with a jolt of fear and longing, that the night was about to tear open secrets no one had expected to hear. The new voice cut through the night like a blade. All eyes turned to the doorway where another woman stood, elegant, composed, her presence radiating authority. The crowd inside hushed, waiting. The millionaire staggered back, as if struck. He knew that voice too well. Once, it had been his anchor, the one person who had promised to shield him. And now, she stood here, not as an ally but as a witness. "Tell them," she said again, each word heavy with demand. "Tell them who she really is." The investor smirked, satisfied, sensing blood in the water. The plump woman's shoulders stiffened, but she didn't look away. Instead, she stepped closer to him, her hand brushing his arm, steady, unyielding. "Don't let them decide for you." His throat tightened. For a moment, he imagined confessing everything. But before he could speak, the elegant woman turned to the guests, her voice sharp, "He lied to all of you. He built his empire on secrets. And she's the proof." The word struck like lightning. Gasps filled the air, whispers spiraled. Investors exchanged frantic looks. The deal, his reputation, his power, it was all collapsing in front of him. He felt the ground vanish beneath his feet. Betrayed, cornered, his empire slipping like sand through his hands. His knees nearly buckled, but then, her hand stayed on him. The plump woman's eyes met his, unwavering. In them, he saw not pity, but belief. And for the first time, hope flickered. Maybe he wasn't finished. Maybe losing everything wasn't the same as being nothing. But the hope was fragile, and the storm far from over. The elegant woman stepped closer, her voice dropping low. "If you choose her now, you'll destroy more than your fortune. You'll destroy the one thing you can't afford to lose." He froze, every muscle tight. What did she mean? What was left that was more dangerous than money, more costly than reputation? The answer hovered in the air, unspoken. And he realized with dread, the next words out of her mouth could shatter far more than his empire. The elegant woman's words cut deep, "The one thing you can't afford to lose." The crowd pressed closer, hungry for scandal. But his mind raced back to that first moment, the quiet sentence the plump woman had whispered across the table, the one that turned his blood cold. He still hadn't let himself face it. Now, with both women standing before him, it felt inevitable. He drew a breath, forcing his shoulders straight. "Enough," he said firmly, his voice carrying farther than he expected. "If you want the truth, you'll hear it from me. Not whispers, not rumors, from me." Gasps rose. Investors craned forward. For the first time that night, he was no longer retreating, he was stepping into the fire. The elegant woman folded her arms. "Then speak. Tell them what she is to you." His jaw tightened. He looked at the plump woman, her eyes steady, silently urging him forward. His throat constricted, but he forced the words out, "She is the only part of my life that's real." The room erupted, shock, disbelief, outrage. Some laughed bitterly, others whispered furiously about betrayal. His assistant looked stricken, investors stormed toward the doors. The empire was cracking, falling piece by piece. But inside him, something shifted. For the first time in years, he felt light, like chains snapping free. A small victory, even as the walls burned. Then the elegant woman stepped closer, her eyes glinting with something darker. "You think you've chosen love over power. But you've forgotten what lies beneath it all. If they truly knew what she carries, they'd never forgive you." Her words hit harder than the crowd's anger. What she carries. The phrase dug into him, twisting everything back to that moment in the restaurant when the plump woman had whispered her secret into his ear. The secret he hadn't dared repeat. Before he could respond, a shout rose from the back of the room, "Tell us now. What is she hiding?" All eyes turned to him, their judgment sharp, their patience gone. And in that instant, he realized, he could no longer protect both her and himself. The plump woman's hand tightened on his arm, her whisper urgent, "If you don't tell them, I will." The demand echoed through the room, "Tell us what she's hiding." The crowd pressed forward, their faces sharp with curiosity, anger, greed. His empire was slipping away before his eyes, and the one secret that had started it all threatened to burst into the open. He stood rigid, torn between worlds. His pulse hammered, sweat ran down his temples. He had fought so many battles in boardrooms, yet here, with one woman's hand on his arm, he felt utterly powerless. The elegant woman stepped forward, seizing the silence. "You want to know the truth? He's not the man you think he is. And she holds the proof of it." Her voice was venom wrapped in silk, each word slicing through the air. The room gasped. Investors muttered, journalists scribbled, phones lifted to record. Every fragment of his legacy was being ripped apart. He clenched his fists. Enough. His voice cracked the air, but the crowd didn't retreat. If anything, they surged closer, hungry. The plump woman held her ground. Her gaze met his, steady, burning. "If you can't speak it, I will. They deserve to know why you fear me." He felt the floor tilt beneath him. Fear her. The phrase cut deep. Hadn't he spent years burying what she represented? Yet here she stood, ready to expose it. Then, a new voice rose from the back, an investor who had been silent until now. "We know more than you think. This isn't about money, is it? It's about who he was before all this." The room shifted. Whispers turned sharp, questions flew. Before all this. His heart clenched. They were circling closer to the truth, clawing at the walls he had built for years. His assistant pushed through, panicked. "Sir, if you don't stop this, the board will move tonight. They're already voting." The millionaire staggered, every pillar of his empire collapsing at once. Betrayal from his allies, exposure from his enemies, and the woman beside him, her presence both his ruin and his only anchor. He drew a breath, forcing words through his clenched teeth. "If I fall tonight, I fall telling them myself." Gasps rippled. She turned to him sharply, eyes wide, not with fear, but with something fiercer. "Then do it." The crowd leaned in, the elegant woman's smirk widened, and the room itself seemed to hold its breath. And just as he opened his mouth, a voice from the doorway shouted a single line, one that froze the room cold. "She isn't who you think she is." The words, "She isn't who you think she is," hung in the air like thunder. All eyes turned to the doorway, where the voice had come from. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the final blow. The millionaire's heart pounded, his empire crumbling, his choices cornering him. For years, he had built walls of power, of money, of reputation. Now all of them were burning, and all that remained was truth. He looked at the plump woman beside him. Her hand still rested on his arm, steady, unshaken. For the first time, he saw not scandal, not threat, but the only thing that had never betrayed him. He straightened. His voice trembled at first, then grew stronger. "She isn't what you think. She is more. She's the only one who ever knew me before I was anything. She stood by me when I had nothing, and I buried her to become what I thought the world demanded. That was my crime." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The elegant woman's smirk faltered, the investor's glare softened to unease. He pressed on, his chest rising with every word. "You want to know why I fear her? Because she reminds me of the man I used to be. Not the millionaire. Not the empire. Just a man who could love without shame." Silence thundered louder than applause. And then, one by one, voices began to shift, some angry, some shocked, but others, respectful. They saw not just wealth stripped away, but courage laid bare. The elegant woman hissed, "You've destroyed yourself." He turned to her, finally calm. "No. I've freed myself." And with that, he reached for the plump woman's hand, not in secret, not in shame, but in full view of everyone. She squeezed back, her eyes glistening, her smile fierce and proud. The board would walk. The empire would fall. But for the first time, he felt no fear. He had chosen, and in choosing, he had won. The crowd buzzed, torn between disbelief and awe. But above the noise, one truth was clear: he was no longer a prisoner of reputation. He was alive. And as he led her out into the night, hand in hand, he knew, this was not an ending. It was the beginning of a life finally his own.